Hello, I am Ilona, and in this video, I want to talk about how I connected stars and number 7 and Sieve. First of all, what I noticed that 7 and Sieve are somewhat similar, and 7 in Spanish is siete, and siete in Latvian are similar. Of course, this is where you would think this is all coincidence. And yes, to some extent, but I wanted to find more about if there even is any coincidence. And the first thing, if you look at Big Dipper or even the Small Dipper, it's 7 stars. Um, so I started looking, and actually, I found some very surprising things. And then I also remembered about Finnish Seitsemän for 7, and then I found the connection with this 7 in Turkic and even Samoyedic languages in Arctic Siberia. And then I also looked at, first of all, the dippers, like the small and big one, yeah. But also there is another thing which is called Pleiades. I don't know how to say it correctly in English. And here I found connection to Sieve, at least in Latvian. And then I looked even in Polynesian languages on the other side of the planet, and there I really found something what I even didn't expect it. So I looked at these translations of also through Google AI and everything. Obviously, I don't know all these languages, so I really tried my best and checked many times that everything is correct, but still, we all know, especially with smaller languages, all the translations can be wrong. First of all, I want to tell a little bit about these groups of stars. The Big Dipper, 7 stars arranged in a shape like a ladle or a wagon, and visible from most of the northern hemisphere, and about a certain latitude, it never sets. It circles the North Star all night, every night. The Little Dipper, also 7 stars, same shape. It looks almost the same. Also circumpolar, also always there. And the Pleiades, a tight cluster, also 7 stars, but not necessarily always all 7 are visible. So somewhere from 6 to 9, something like that, or maybe it depends. Maybe more, I don't know. But these are known virtually in every culture on Earth since before recorded history. So these are 3 completely separate groups of all stars. And if we agree that Pleiades are also basically in most for most people will be seen as 7 stars. We can see 3 sevens. That's interesting. Well, some kind of numerology maybe here. Well, it did come from somewhere. Now, the number 7 has no explanation inside any of the language families that use it. At least I didn't find anything. In the European linguists reconstructed back to a proto-root, but that proto-root has no further etymology. It just appears already meaning 7 with nothing behind it. Same in Uralic languages, same in Turkic. So the word arrives fully formed from, nowhere. Of course, not from nowhere. So what if the nowhere is actually from sky? Not literally, but to some extent. Unrelated language families, all carrying some versions of the same sound. Um, I don't know. Now, the standard explanation is borrowing. Yes, languages borrow words from each other, and I guess people had a lot of contacts between each other, and this happens all the time. But the number words usually are the most resistant to borrowing in any language, at least this is what I found. What I think it happened long before even all these language groups or proto language groups started to form, my personal opinion, because numbers, at least up to 10, still have to be very ancient concept. The mainstream explanation for the Uralic 7 word is that it was borrowed from early Indo-European, Indo-Iranian branch. So the same contact that gave Finnish Sata 400, but there's a problem. Nenets and Selkup are Samoyedic languages, and Samoyedic split off from the rest of the Uralic family before significant Indo-Iranian contact with Finno-Ugric people. If it was not borrowed that way, at least, then what happened? My opinion, yes. What I think, the number 7 was not invented inside any of these language families. It arrived already made, a very old sound attached to a very old observation, and I think that observation was those stars. Why? Both dippers have 7 stars, and always visible in the northern sky. Well, at night, of course. And if we talk about counting in general, when people learned how to count, it could be very long time ago. I think most likely even Neanderthals knew how to count, and there is some kind of evidence that supports it. Like this Neanderthal bone found in Crimea, dated around 40,000 years ago, has 7 regularly spaced notches carved into it. I am not saying that these specific 7 notches are related to the deeper, but the fact that people, even Neanderthals most likely, knew or could count to 7. So this shows how ancient this understanding of 7 most likely is. Now, if the word for 7 we could find very similar in so many language groups, now let's look at the star. Across the same languages, actually, Latin stella, English star, Greek aster, Persian probably setare, but I am not sure. So this share Proto-Indo-European root. But for example, Latvian zvaigzne, Lithuanian zvaigžde, Russian zvezda, these Baltic and Slavic languages replaced Indo-European star with something completely different. Or I should say not necessarily replaced, but kept the original word maybe. So this is actually a substrate candidate. In Finnish, they have their own naming, or more like in Finnic languages. If we look at Semitic languages, again, this is something different. So this is completely different from the 7 word in both languages. And now about Pleiades. So the Latvian word for sieve is seeds. The Latvian name for Pleiades, that cluster of 7 stars, well, let's say so, yeah, is Sietiņš, which means little sieve. In Lithuanian, Sietas for sieve, Sietinas for Pleiades. Finnish, Seula for sieve, Seula set for Pleiades, literally sieve stars. And in Belarusian folk name for Pleiades, Sitsa, also from the word sieve. But here the connection between sieve and 7 is most likely, first of all, coincidental. Second, this folk etymology, when something sounds similar, you kind of feel like it is connected. An interesting coincidence, if it is coincidence. And then I thought, okay, that's enough. Already a lot of information, but I don't know how it happened, but somehow I stumbled on the Polynesian languages. This is, yes, absolutely, the word is different, but look at this connection between 7 and star. One vowel apart. E for star, I for 7, or in Latvian that would be E. The mainstream, yes, I have to say this, linguistic position is that these are two separate roots that happen to look similar. Proto-Polynesian reconstructs star as Fatu and 7 as Fitu, officially unrelated. But here, what I noticed is in languages where unrelated words drift apart over time, and Polynesian branches have been separated for centuries, some for over 1,000 years, you expect more divergence. And then I looked further, the Proto-Austronesian word for star, the ancestor of all Polynesian star words, was this. I have to tell you, I have no idea, I don't know anything about these languages. But, okay, I think sometimes outsiders can see something what maybe insiders can't see because it's too obvious for them. But yes, of course, I feel more comfortable to talking about my own language because I am familiar with it. But even there, I can be sometimes some things confuse me when I find out. Wait a minute, that actually means that you never think about it. This happens. And then I found out that this word for a star, the original reconstructed one, that last part, that can, is not really pronounced. It's like some kind of like this grammatical suffix, which is like this kind of like stop sign or something. I don't know how to explain. And listen. And the 7 is P2 and this one is B2. I mean, it's it looks so obvious that I even don't know. I will be very disappointed if I am wrong at this point. In Polynesian, so both words shifted together. The old star word was replaced entirely, but it's not like it was replaced. It was just shortened, and that replacement probably had a reason because Polynesian peoples actually they were great ocean navigators. They crossed the Pacific in open canoes, using stars as their only instruments. You do understand how huge of importance the stars were to them. So they really counted all stars, um, not for curiosity. It was for survival. The connection between 7 and stars, it's not something very abstract. It was the difference between finding the next island or just get or be lost in the ocean somewhere. In the western branches of the Austronesian family, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, the star word stayed as between bintang, something like that. So it drifted away from the 7. No navigational pressure to keep them close. Oh wow. But yes, this is sometimes it is the only way to see a pattern that familiarity has made invisible for you. What I can say is that 7 word barely changed across the entire Austronesian family, similar to Eurasia. Yes, different word, but I mean different same word. Yes, 7, but different letters, different sounds. It sounds different, but you see how it is consistent, specifically the 7. Because, yes, star did change. The word for star also did change a little bit between these branches. Same as in Eurasia, where we have even more difference. But specifically, 7 here too also stayed quite unchanged. From what I started, yes, it ended a little bit differently. I found something else instead what I was maybe looking for, but it is definitely not less interesting. It is even more interesting for me personally. Yeah. Thanks for watching and goodbye.